actually have some thoughts on that. So most of you will know my thoughts on Steve Danuser's writing. I don't think it comes as any surprise to people that I don't like the direction of Shadowlands, and I don't like what Steve Danuser has done with Shadowlands. But I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been thinking about this probably for the last 2 weeks. I've been trying to think, because I always like giving people the benefit of the doubt in order to understand their motivations. So I don't give people the benefit of the doubt often in order to redeem themselves, but I do like giving people the benefit of the doubt in order to understand the motivation of the person behind it. So I've been thinking quite a lot about Danuser's plight, about the state that Danuser finds himself in with the game right now. And if this video makes it to YouTube, if this portion makes it to YouTube, if you're watching this right now, hit the like button and write some stupid shit in the comment section. And I've been asking myself, okay, so you are Steve Danuser. You've started working on a game that has an incredible history, but I think it would be fair to say, I don't think I would be over-exaggerating or exaggerating. Over-exaggerating is unnecessarily blowing up something that doesn't need blowing up in the first place. So I don't think I would be exaggerating if I said that World of Warcraft's lore is at the best. So if you want to be very, very kind to World of Warcraft lore, even before Steve Danuser, it is convoluted as shit. Very difficult to follow for the most part. There's sort of threads everywhere, and I understand why those threads are there. It gives them freedom to basically do whatever the fuck they want, but World of Warcraft's lore has never been very straightforward, nicely tied in a bow. Now you are tasked with writing a story within this universe. This universe that you had no hand in creating. It was basically handed down to you by your superior at the time. And maybe you have a different idea. Maybe you want to do something differently. Maybe you have an idea for writing the story more structurally sound. So you want the story to have a better beginning, middle, and end bit. But how do you do that? How do you write the story from the moment that you're given the story into that? So I started thinking, okay, you need to bring the current story to an end. There's no real other option, because if you now try to make the game more beginning, middle, and end, it's gonna be so hard. so hard, because you're basically gonna need an expansion for every single one of the threads that is open before you can actually do it. So you decide to bring it all to an end using a singular bad guy, right? A singular catalyst to which you can tie every single one of the knots, the loose ends, into World of Warcraft. And with the death of said catalyst, all of those loose ends are now neatly tied into a knot that you can sort of put away and say, right, we've done this. Now, if I were to say that this is what Steve Danuser did, then if I work from the perception and the perspective that Steve Danuser did exactly this, I would say he would have needed for Zuvul to work. He would have needed at minimum 2 expansions. 1 expansion wouldn't have worked. He would have needed at minimum 2 expansions. The first expansion would have been the introduction of all of these people in Shadowlands. So for example, you would have had, just off the top of my head, you have the Shadowlands or Zuvul's forces invading Azeroth. Now you also have, through this invasion of Zuvul's forces on Azeroth, you have all of the covenants of the Shadowlands sending their forces to help us fight back Zuvul, because they realize if Zuvul wins on Azeroth, he wins in the Shadowlands and it's over. Why do you do this? Because now the player learns about the Winter Queen, Sidon-Athreus, the Primus, the Arbiter, the Archon, and Zuvul secondhand. Right? So you don't see these characters, you hear about them, you learn about them. You sort of learn that the Primus is missing, and part of the excursion of the Necrolords into Azeroth is to look for clues as to where the Primus may be, because they don't know. They've scoured the whole of the Shadowlands, so maybe he's here. So you're sort of learning about this world, and they're telling you fantastic stories about their world, building that appetite for what this world could ultimately be. And then at the end of this expansion, Zuvul wins. So Zuvul's forces actually manages to beat out the mortal forces, and all that is left to us is to now take the fight to Zuvul himself. Now you get into the Shadowlands exactly as it was, but when you see Zuvul for the first time, it's not your first time hearing about him. You just dealt with him for 2 years. You dealt with these forces. You learned about who he is, the kind of person that he is, the kind of leader that he is, the kind of titan or eternal one that he was. So you've learned about all of these things. You now see these incredible worlds that you've only heard about for an entire expansion. You now see it play off in front of you. And then you bring all of this into a single nice catalyst of the jailer being the guy that pulled the strings for a long time. And it would be easier to digest because we just saw Zuvul invade Azeroth. So it's clear that Zuvul has knowledge of Azeroth. Zuvul knows about Azeroth. It's clear that he had plans on Azeroth. Part of the expansion could have been going back to ICC, learning that authors built ICC in such a way that it provides power to Zuvul. So you learn all these things that Zuvul clearly had a hand in throughout the entirety of the history of World of Warcraft. And now in the Shadowlands expansion, you bring it all to a head, yeah? Everything now nicely tied into a neat little bow. It's over, yeah? Now Zuvul is dead, it's good game, and we head into the next expansion. Part of the reason I think this may be what Steve Danuser tried to do, and why I think he could never have done that, is Ian would probably not have signed up on it. I get the feeling when I look at World of Warcraft as a game that story isn't important at all to World of Warcraft, the developers of World of Warcraft. So when I look at how WoW is developed, it feels like the developers have an idea for something that they wish to do, right? And then the story guys simply flesh out the final bits and pieces. It's not as if it starts with a story that then turns into a game. It feels like it's oftentimes done the other way around, if that makes sense. Now, let's imagine that this is true. What evidence do I have for it? The Titans and the Eternal Ones, and the reveal that the Titans and the Eternal Ones aren't actually gods. This is something that pissed me off. Like a while ago, I got really angry about this because am I the only one that feels a little bit kicked in the guts when we found out that the Eternal Ones, and by design or definition, the Titans as well, are simply constructs? Was it just me that felt sort of kicked in the guts by that reveal? It killed a lot of the mystique, right? So plan multiple big bads of all tier evil guys. It's this thing, he could knock, the sky would have been the limit, right? It's kind of disrespectful. We've been told to respect and honor robots. It sort of destroys it all, right? And then I thought, like I said, I like to cut people like slack. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. So I've been spending the last 2 weeks really thinking about, okay, so why would he do that if not to write his new story? Because this allows him to keep the Titans as a catalyst, because they're still powerful. Just because they're constructs doesn't mean they're no longer powerful. But now he has the freedom to say, well, really, the true gods are even higher than these Titans. Because Titanic lore is a mess. If you look at the Titans and all the information that we have on the Titans, it's still sort of very kind of wishy-washy. Like a lot of it isn't really fleshed out. And again, like I said, for Chris Metzen, this worked because it gave him freedom in applying the story in whichever way he wanted. But it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't the most well-constructed lore. It was sort of very thrown together in many ways, with a lot of inferences made, to what they are, where they come from. All of this was more inferred than ever really proven. Now, if you're Steve Danuser and you truly are you're trying to write a more balanced and beginning, middle, end kind of story, you don't necessarily want to work with elements such as the Titans as the main catalysts to drive the story. First and foremost, it's been done. Secondly, it's been done sometimes good, sometimes bad, and it would be easier if you sort of relegated these Titans to constructs of the gods, because it opens up your freedom. It opens up your storytelling elements, because now it doesn't matter that you go to the Shadowlands, because the Shadowlands isn't the realm of the gods. It's the realm of the constructs of the gods. It gives more freedom, but it also allows you to sort of move off of it and write a different world that does make sense to you. It might just be that Steve Danuser is going to give me the biggest fuck you of all time in 10.0. I'm not saying it will happen, but it might just be. There is a very good chance that 10.0 launches fully the brainchild of Steve Danuser, and it blows me away. There is a chance of that. And I would be happy if that happens. I would be the first person to say, yep, I got debated. I was wrong. Steve Danuser clearly knows what he's doing. I have no problem being wrong. Do I think that is what's going to happen? No, I don't. But I do leave the possibility of it open. I leave the possibility open that it could happen. I'm still not convinced that he couldn't have done a better job with the story as is. I'm still not convinced that this was the best choice he had, but I could be wrong, and I would be happy to be wrong. If I'm proven wrong, then hey, so be it. Then I'm wrong, and we move from there. It's just sort of, I wanted to share this thought with you guys because it's been something that I've been thinking about for about 2 weeks now, because I don't like the just negative all the time. I think there's a time and place for negativity. I think there's a time and place for calling people out, but I also think it's helpful if you try and keep an open mind to the possibilities of the other. So you have to be willing to accept that there could be another explanation for something, until such time that it's proven right or wrong. So basically right now, Steve Danuser and his prowess as a writer is in, what's the word? Schrodinger's, however you pronounce that in fucking English. But Schrodinger's box, right? We wouldn't know until we open the box. We're gonna have to wait, because 10.0 is going to be the catalyst. 10.0 is going to be the thing that tells us whether we were right or wrong. Until then, we have, courts basically in recess till 10.0, because that's when we'll know for a fact, okay, fuck this, WoW's dead. Or, wow, how wrong we were. And yes, that means we are huffing a little bit of copium right now, but I'm okay with a little bit of copium, at least for now.